mean, fitness is hard, as you guys know. We're trying to sell a product that people know that they need, but they really don't want it. It's like delayed gratification, right? You don't get anything when you invest in it. It's like, man, there's a lot of obstacles to selling fitness. By the way, if you ever have anyone that can sell fitness really well, they can go into any other industry and be amazing at sales. It's freaking hard, right? You're selling future ideas of what may happen. And by the way, between now and then, your life's going to suck ass. But, it's like, that's a pretty hard sell, right?
Hey, what's up, everybody? That was Rick Mayo, one of my guests on this show. And this show was a lot of fun. I got to sit down with two guys that I've known for going on 3 years, good friends of mine, Rick Mayo, John Farkas. Rick is a giant in the industry, going to be taking his Alloy brand into the franchise model. So he's going to be even more of a baller coming up in the future. And John is a really smart guy and a really good guy, really good friend. I was having lunch with him, decided to invite him on the show, and it worked out great. We have a lot of fun, especially at the end, where we weigh in on some pet peeves of ours and just have some fun, in addition to really diving into the weeds on where you need to be in the near future in order to be successful in the fitness industry. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation with my good friend Rick and John. And be sure to visit our website, trainergym.net. Click on exclusive offers by sponsors, and you'll be able to save some money on some products that will help you make more money in the fitness business. So enjoy this conversation with John and Rick.
Hey, what's up, everybody? And welcome to an episode of the podcast that I'm really excited about. We have Rick Mayo back on, and I was having lunch yesterday with my good friend John Farkas, and I said, "Hey, why don't you join us?" So he said, "Sure." So now we have a little talk show going on here. So we're going to talk about where you need to position yourself next year to be successful in the fitness industry. How you need to evolve, how you can continue to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. And then we may have John, depending on how much time we have, we may have John touch on exactly what it means. Everybody talks about customer experience, but what does that mean? What does that mean in a measurable way? So we were talking about that at lunch, and John's got some great ideas on that. So I'm looking forward to him sharing that. So, guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And, John, I was listening for you guys, for the guests that haven't heard John's episode 5, I was listening to that because I go back and I kind of transcribe them and boil it down to like the takeaway nuggets. But just listening to your story, every time I listen to it, man, I am blown away. So if you haven't listened to John's episode of the podcast, episode 5, definitely do yourself a favor. It's an unbelievable story. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. Anywho, and we were talking before we started recording how, we've known each other for at least a couple of years or more. So, and have hung out. And so this could definitely digress into just frat boy stuff, but we're going to try to keep it on track, keep it on the rails. So Rick, the reason I was excited to have you on the show is that you operate at a really high level, especially compared to most independent operators in the fitness space. And so you hang around some people who are kind of orbiting the fitness industry almost at a satellite level to look and see. So that's why I was excited to have you on, because you're really good at informing us in the STS, Secret Trainer Society, of where we need to position ourselves coming up in the next year and what's coming down the road. So you want to share some of those thoughts with the listeners?
Yeah, of course. So I think, it's a big question right now, right? Everybody wants to know like where are things headed. I certainly don't have a crystal ball, but I would say from crop duster height or satellite height or however high you are, looking down on the industry overall, certainly as it pertains to coaching or training or, whatever you want to call it, small boutique fitness studios, training clubs. It's a interesting. In around 2012, we saw sort of the commercial boot camp style franchising really start to become big. Big names in that space now are like an Orange Theory and F45, the various boot camps. And there's a lot of them, as you guys know. And I often say in my talk, and you guys certainly know this, we have 50 in our competitive drive radius, which is 12 minutes of our club, 50 brands and boutique cycling and all that, Pilates, that fits into that category. And those are competitors. People only have so much disposable income they're going to spend on a fitness related product, So when you look at that, you start to see when there's a gluttony of any kind of a service or product on the market, it's just basic economics. What happens to price? Well, it comes down. And so you guys know that we have alloy licensing, of course, and the large clubs that we work with were responding maybe 5-6 years ago to the explosion of the studio market by building a studio within their larger club, right? So you can almost not run into any large club, basic club operator who doesn't have something that mimics that group training option inside of their club. And when they have it, the disadvantage they have is they can't create an entire experience around it like a studio can, right? They can't do lighting, branding, and an entire like turnkey solution around it. But what they can do is they can wrap around it a lot of ancillary services like a basic gym membership and a sauna and a nice locker room and ability to shoot hoops or whatever that is. And they can come in because they have a base membership covering some of their overhead. They can come in at a very low price point. So what they've done as they've responded to the studio market is given yet another competitor in that space, given us one in the team training or group training. And they're doing it in some cases as low as $20, $25 a month. When we were in talks with like, say, a Planet Fitness as an example, they have a $9 membership. And they have their Black Card membership, which is now, I think, 21, right? Which allows you to get like hydro massage and tanning and maybe go to different clubs or whatever. Well, when a club like that has massive volume, 10,000 members per club for a good club, can take something like group training or team training, which we would say would be boot camp or any of these brands we talked about, and put it into their club and do it for $21, right? You can argue that that's not disruptive to you because you create such a better experience in your studio. But I'm telling you, that does change the game a little bit, right? Because to the end user, the person that doesn't know better, to them it's group training. And even if we might look at the exercises and scoff at them, hell, we do that with the brands that are doing well right now, right? From a technical standpoint, but that'll be really disruptive, right? And so the only thing that we'll be able to do to respond to that as a studios is to maybe bring our price point down, and we're seeing that in our market. A lot of the boot camp franchises are now under $100. And just 4 or 5 years ago, they were $150 to $200. So big jump down as a differentiator. So it's sort of that, you hear that term commoditization of group training. You see the price coming down so low in the large clubs, $25. When I talk to really large club operators that are really good, how they speak to group training now? They'll say like, you know what, I can earn revenue in it, which is great, but that's not our goal. Our goal is retention, a better customer experience, and all these things that sound to me a lot like what I heard in the 90s about group exercise, which, by the way, people used to charge for. And now they don't charge for it. It's free. So I could see group training going the way of, and I know this is much to the chagrin of any studio owner that does a ton of it, going the way, if you will, of Group X, which means it's going to just be included in the membership. You have to have instead of a nice to have, right? And they won't charge for it. So then what does it do to the studios that are sitting out there? Well, they also have a million competitors. Their price is coming down. So I would say, James, ultimately, if I was trying to go where things were headed and not just maybe where things look good right now, I would steer away from large group training as a standalone business model. Certainly there's markets where you can still do well with it. If you're in a B market, no one's there, but that's not going to last forever. And I would look to maybe move in a gap where no one is right now, which is maybe not one-on-one training, because we know that's tough to scale, right? I mean, it would work if you just want to work all day. But the labor model on that's pretty weird as a business model. But maybe something in the middle, if you could just make that claim of like, hey, we do personal training and those guys do classes, that's a pretty powerful statement these days since everyone's doing classes, right? So anyway, that's a super high level of how we see things developing. And have been developing for a while, and will continue to go that direction. So I don't know. I'll be interested to get you guys' thoughts on that as well.
Yeah. Now that Rick has scared the shit out of us, John, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, we see the same thing in our market. We're both in St. Louis, so it's not as large of a market as Atlanta, but it's the same thing. It's more and more competitors constantly moving into that large group training space, and it just it's harder to market to that audience. And I think as far as the future and where things are going, if you want to kind of stand out, you definitely have to go away from that.
So my next question, based on what I heard you guys say, and Rick, I agree with you 100%. I think there definitely is a commoditization of large group training, and it's becoming a race to the bottom when people start competing on price, because then it becomes a volume play. And some of the personalization and client experience, things that affect the client experience, which I want John to weigh on later, begin to fall by the wayside. But if you're going to try to capture that gap space, say with small group personal training, does that then become a product issue where you have to have a product that stands out from the crowd, or a marketing issue where you can communicate it to the people that you want to come in for training?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I think the answer is yes to both, right? I mean, we took the simplest approach by just putting personal training in our name. I mean, that's the easiest way to do it. Like if I'm a 55-year-old guy with a bad hip, right, I'm not looking to go to a metabolic class that's going to murder me every time I go in. I mean, like I'm self-aware. If I'm in that age category and maybe I golf, I might have a little bit more income, disposable income than most, certainly than the 30-year-old, attractive mom that everyone else is chasing with their avatar, right? So it's like, well, I don't want to go to that stuff anyway, and I'm cool with it, right? So I'm looking for, in my mind, what's the general public going to say? I need to hire a what? Fitness coach? No, they're going to say, I need to hire a personal trainer, right? I need a trainer, that kind of thing. So we kind of laugh about that term, and we try to create all these internal terms for ourselves that make it seem cooler. But at the end of the day, that's what the end consumer still sees it as. So I would say if you just use that, right, in the description of what you do, if you're on an elevator and someone's like, hey, yeah, you have a fitness studio? Cool. What's the difference between you and Orange Theory? And you could simply say, oh, that's easy. They do classes, we do personal training, so it's more specific to just you. Oh, cool. Sold, right? If that's what I'm looking for. I don't want to do classes. So, that's the claim. And then when you go to market with that, you have to make sure that you're marketing it in a way that still makes it look cool, because one thing that the classes do when they're targeting a younger clientele is they can certainly make an edgier sort of, more cool, if you will, advertising campaign around people that look like the people they want to bring into their club. The problem is you have 50 people in your market all chasing that same avatar. Those people are literally just hopping from one fitness brand to the next, right? So there's that. And then when people come to the gym and work out, as far as like product delivery or service delivery that you asked about, yeah, it's got to be different, right? It can't feel and look exactly like what they get down the street. You can't make a claim of personal training and then throw somebody in a group of 20 and put the clock on and say switch every 40 seconds. That's not going to work. That right. feels and smells a lot like the place down the street. I use this in my talks all the time. People come into our place and there's not much equipment. As you can imagine, it's more functional training. And they might see something hanging from the ceiling that looks medieval, and they always ask me if it's CrossFit, right? Like, what is this? Is this CrossFit? I'm like, I don't know. And you ask them, I'm like, I don't know, do you like CrossFit? And it's like, it's pretty polarizing, right? If they like it, then I'm like, yeah, it's just like that. And if they hate it, I'm like, oh, it's nothing like that. But I mean, it's funny how people they see, from the consumer's lens, they see a group of people getting sweaty, and to them it means whatever it means. It's really not that much different, right, to them. So you really have to make sure the experience and the service feels more like personal training. And that starts from the minute that you contact them after they put their hand up and say, I'm interested, all the way through to they're actually working out in your club. It's got to be a different experience than what they're getting at the boot camp place down the street.
Yeah. And John, I don't know about you, but I know we specialize in small group training. And we do some large group, but it's mostly an add-on. And I think you specialize in small group training as well. What is your average demographic? What's your average client, your client avatar look like?
Our average client, we're 48-year-old female. We're about 70% female. People that just want to look better, move better, feel better. Everyone wants to drop a few pounds, 10, 15 pounds, sure. Everyone wants to have more energy to keep up with their kids, go on hikes. You know, a lot of our clients, their kids are now in college. They want to be able, when they go to the Rocky Mountains, to go on a nice hike with them. So I think it, compared to a younger market, and there's always exceptions to the rule, but compared to a younger market, it's more about quality of life and just being able to do the things you want to do forever.
Yeah, I agree. That's our that's what our clients look like. We got 45 to 65, predominantly female, probably 70-30 female to male. And the males are usually spouses that come in, and everybody that comes in for our services usually has an injury or past injury or some kind of movement issue where they're not a good fit for the large classes, where, you know, all the, you know, pretty girls in the booty shorts and the guys taking their shirts off are working out and sweating right next to them. They have zero interest in that. What they want to do is exactly what you said, is they want to move pain-free, and they want to improve their play span, whatever that means to them. The amount of time they can, you know, do an activity, be it run, golf, travel, spend time with their families, their grandkids, whatever it is. So that's our demographic. And before we started recording, Rick was talking about the economic impact on the market that demographic has versus some of the younger ones. So Rick, you want to share that with the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's 1,000,001 metrics, but it does, when you really look at the hard metrics, it's like, it would make you wonder why you would design a business to chase 25 to 35-year-olds, right? You might have read that millennials spend more money on fitness, but what you probably misread or didn't read correctly was it's a larger percentage of their income is spent on fitness than other generations. That's fine, but 10% of $100 is not nearly the same as 3% of, you know, $10 million. So it's just it's a weird metric, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, we need to go here. These guys spend a lot on fitness. Well, they don't. They don't spend nearly as much money on luxury services and products and travel as people 50 plus. So here's some stats for you. 70% of the disposable income in the United States lives in the population that we have of 50 years old and older. 70% of disposable income. And that's only going to increase. So that population is also set to inherit in the next 25 years like $13 trillion, right, in additional income. They spend 4 times as much online, which is surprising for a lot of people. So a lot of people are like, oh man, you know, these old people aren't buying anything online. I'm like, man, the fastest growing segment of Facebook is ladies over 50, right? It's like, that's where your grandma goes to see the grandkids these days. So like, you're crazy if you don't think they're not clicking through and buying things. Plus they have the financial wherewithal to do it. Interestingly, only 5% of overall marketing dollars are spent on that group. So this doesn't just pertain to fitness. This is like every industry is trying to figure out how to relevantly reach out to this crowd who has massive amounts of money and just has no problem spending it, right? Wealthiest generation we've ever seen. So why would you not want to go there instead of chasing a population that certainly doesn't have nearly disposable income? And quite honestly, it's just crowded. Everyone else is chasing them. So there's 1,000,001 metrics that I can share if you want to do something for show notes or whatever. But yeah, man, it's crazy. It's like everything points to that crowd. You touched on it earlier, James. Like, how do you relevantly market to that crowd, you know, without making it feel like an old person's gym? Well, I don't think it's that hard, right? I think we've all done it. I think John's a master of this. He can speak to this, but you just put people in your ads that look like the people you want to bring in your gym. So if I'm watching and I'm like, shit, I got a bad hip. Like, I look like that lady. I'm going to go there. That looks like a place I could work out. And he has a good sense of humor, and I like that. So it's fun. Well, that's pretty easy to do, right? So I think, you know, a little bit of it is, what are the optics to your peers, right? Like, what is that? How cool, how badass is your gym to other trainers or training owners? What would that look like? And who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I told you guys that story actually on my Perform Better talks. I'll lead off with this. We were launching a CrossFit out in Hermosa Beach, California, and I went into the gym to do a talk as their grand opening party. And there was all these Hollywood people that I'd seen over there. The founder of CrossFit did a talk, and I did a talk. And when I walked in, they had a slack line strung across the gym. And there was all these super buff people doing like backflips and pistol squats and everything on the slack line. Imagine stringing a slack line across your gym and people do backflips on it. I mean, it was like a circus act. So much so that I asked the owner where he hired those people to come and do that work? And he said, no, I didn't hire them, dude. These are our members, because they had another gym, 4 or 5 miles away. I'm like, what? Like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't ever have a member that would even like think twice about stepping on a slack line. Like, no, right? Much less doing a backflip on it, right? And of course, I got this feeling like, oh man, like this is a cool place. Like, I would like to own a gym like this, right? Well, fast forward now, which has been 5 years, they're out of business. It's like they're gone. And of course, I come back. It looks like The Walking Dead sometimes around my gym with all the injuries and beat up people. It's not sexy, but my guys stay for 38 months and pay $370 a month. So it's like, which would you rather service? As a business owner, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think the easy answer is why people don't market that segment of the population is easy. It's not sexy.
Yeah,
it's not pretty.
Why would you be worried about what other people think, right? Like,
mm-hmm.
The only people you have to worry about is your customer. Like, I don't care what you guys think about my marketing. If I'm bringing customers in and they're paying me for 3+ years at $400 a month, I mean, why would I care? I'm laughing all the way to the bank,
Yep, absolutely. And John, like Rick said, you do a great job with your videos, and I've told you your website looks great. That video, the intro video that you have on your website is excellent. It's a great onboarding and a great tool to get people in the door. And you do a good job of inserting your clients in there that look like clients you want to attract. And you are a funny guy. And so that comes through on the video. And I want to hear your take on Rick's point in that the older demographic stays longer than some of the 25 to 35-year-old population, where they tend to be gym hoppers, where the older, the 50 and up, they tend to stick and stay a lot longer. You want to share your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, we see the same thing here. I completely agree. For us, to Rick's kind of point earlier on marketing to that audience, for us, we really just try to focus on we don't use stock images. And like, why do so many gyms put, these 20-somethings that are shredded in all their ads? It doesn't make sense to me, but I feel like in fitness, in a lot of mainstream fitness, that's the way it's always been done. And maybe that's why it just continue that trend, and no one's really, or a large number of people have never really stopped to think, well, why are we doing this? But I think, for us, it's all about putting our clients, all of our ads feature our real clients, and all of our messaging and branding and ads, everything is based on something an actual client has said. For instance, when I'm struggling to come up with something for an ad, it's usually because I haven't spent any time on the floor lately. And then I go hang out on the floor for a day, have a couple conversations with clients, and it just triggers several ideas. It's just like, oh yeah, this is a major pain point. And you know what? Oh, I forgot. Clients do really struggle with this. Or, I have a client mention that, whatever their pain point is. And I'm like, wow, that's a great idea for an ad. So all of our ads speak to our audience because they're based on real clients. It's not, there's no sexy formula to it. It's like, well, what do people actually say? And it's not, something that I laugh at is I see in a lot of Facebook groups, people talk about like, trainers will put their trainer hat on and they'll argue back and forth over like using words like toning up. And I'm like, well, if that's what the audience uses, like, okay, why do I care if toning up isn't technically a thing? You mean building muscle? Like, it doesn't matter. So it just really, with our ads, it's all about just speaking to your audience. And then on top of that, I would say that with all of our ads, it's about being ourselves and being who we are. When we first opened, I think I did too much of trying to be professional by the book and very vanilla and, no sarcasm, and just tried to come across as this person that I really wasn't. And then the longer we've been in business and the more I'm just myself, which whether that's good or bad is debatable, but that comes across in our ads, and it attracts the audience that we're looking for.
Yeah, I agree. Frank Nash was talking about that. Frank Nash said, like, be weird, and I interpret that as be you. Don't be afraid to be you, be your authentic self, because that shows through, just like when you're fake, or like we were talking about in the last podcast, those automated, emails or texts. People can sniff that out a mile away. They can sniff whether you're being fake or if you're being real. So just be yourself. I think that's a great point. And the stat that I bring up all the time on this show, and I think it's relevant here, and especially since I first heard it from you, Rick, is that basically 20% of the population has a gym membership. So that means 80% of the population do not belong to a gym, are intimidated to come to a gym, don't want to be training don't want to come in and be training next to the girl in the booty shorts or the guy with the six-pack abs. But most of the fitness industry targets that 20%. So do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, well, you're 100% right. It's like you're basically selling into a crowd that just wants a better mousetrap, for lack of better terms, right? That's why companies like ClassPass and things in real densely populated areas like New York City are so popular, because you're just selling it to people that already like fitness. They probably don't even have any movement discrepancies. They may be too young to be beat up yet. They're just going to do whatever they want, right? It's just going to cherry pick all the things that they want to do. So, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think it kind of goes back to the same things we've said. There's like a lot of products servicing the same customer avatar, right? Which I would jokingly say is like 30-year-old attractive moms, but that seems to be kind of where everyone's going. Honestly, I think everyone understands that maybe first engagement in a coaching model of any kind or training may be predominantly from females. I think that's changed over the last few years a little bit, but we all see it, right, in our businesses as well. So that's who they're going to use, right, in their ads. So, yeah, I mean, wholeheartedly agree. I don't really know if there's anything I can add to it. You're 100% right.
Yeah, because that's been my point, is that why not target the 80%? Because not only is that the lion's share of the market, but it's also the portion of the market that you can have the biggest impact on.
Well, yeah, but you might argue, like, man, whoever can solve that, right, is cooking with oil. Like, that would be amazing. I think there's a lot of other things at play, right? I mean, fitness is hard, as you guys know. We're trying to sell a product that people know that they need, but they really don't want it. It's like delayed gratification, right? You don't get anything when you invest in it. It's like, man, there's a lot of obstacles to selling fitness. By the way, if you ever have anyone that can sell fitness really well, they can go into any other industry and be amazing at sales. It's freaking hard, right? You're selling future ideas of what may happen. And by the way, between now and then, your life's going to suck ass. But, it's like, that's a pretty hard sell, right? So yeah, I mean, look, I don't know that there's any brand other than, and you hate to admit, but other than maybe Planet Fitness, which they've proven they are penetrating a little bit of the inactive market with that whole lunk alarm. We're not we're a gym for all people, and a very, very low price point. So potentially a good value proposition, are maybe the only brand that's making any really hard impact into that percentage of people that's not exercising. So I would love to be able to answer that question, but I think it's a bigger issue, socioeconomic. There's a lot of things going on, right, that affect that 80% beyond kind of what I can do in my gym or what kind of message I can get out there. But yeah, man, we're fighting for it, and we certainly get our share of people that have never been to a gym or certainly haven't been to a gym in 30 years. I mean, that's a good type of customer for us. We can really handle that well.
Yeah. John, you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, Rick pretty much hit the nail on the head. With marketing to that audience, it's definitely tough, because you're selling something that people don't necessarily want. I mean, that's really all there is to it. So, yeah, I mean, it's a tough sell, but yeah, someone's going to make a lot of money when they figure out that winning kind of formula.
Yeah, I've been trying, but I haven't been able to pull out the oil to cook with it yet. But, talking about differentiator, I think customer service and the customer experience is always going to be a differentiator. And I think it's one advantage, because Rick was talking about how the big box gyms are trying to move into the studio space, but they can't offer the same experience that studios can. But we were talking about this at lunch, John, is that, and you asked me, what is customer experience? And I said, well, it's, when people really enjoy it, when they refer their friends and they stay with you a long time. And you said, well, those aren't really actionable things. Those aren't measurable. And then you read off a list that I, feverishly wrote down of actionable things that actually you can do and implement at your studio to create a positive customer experience. You want to share some of that?
All right. Yeah. So I think when I asked you, what is your customer experience, it got brought up because you mentioned something about the radio sometimes at the gym. And I said, well, if you're not controlling that, then you're not controlling your customer experience. And now, the customer experience it's such I think it's very catchy now, and a lot of people talk about it, but what does that actually mean? And you or I or Rick, if we go into a store, we know when we have a good customer experience. But how do you put that into something tangible? How do you actually take that and apply it in your gym? And I think that is insanely difficult. And all the customer service, customer experience books I've read, a lot of even that, I can learn from the Ritz-Carlton and Disney, and it's very difficult. It's like, well, how do you make this actionable? And not only how do you understand it, more what really matters, it doesn't really matter if you understand it. How does your staff understand it and your team? How do they understand it? And how do they, more importantly, execute on it? And so for us, where we were talking about yesterday, I said, we need to have something with the customer experience that is not even measurable as much as just actionable. And I think that's what's key. And so for us, what we came up with was our 7 steps to an amazing customer experience. And the goal being that if we do these 7 things every single time someone walks through our door, for the most part, our customers should have an excellent experience. And those 7 things, it starts, number 1 is to greet everyone with a smile by their first name within 5 seconds of walking in the door. And let me back up with these 7 steps. Everyone on my team has these memorized. I haven't gone as far as getting them tattooed on my body yet, but I'm not far away from that. It's just like we're constantly hammering this home so that it's consistent, so that if we drop the ball anywhere, we can go back and it's like, well, you know what? We didn't do step number 3. That's why they're upset, or that's why they had a bad experience. So step 1, greet everyone with a smile by first name within 5 seconds of walking in the door. Everyone, trainers, our customer service team, everybody's responsible for that. Step 2, ask how they're feeling or how their day is. Someone walks in the door, they look tired, they're coming in from work. Hey, how was your day? When they get out on the training floor, hey, how's your shoulder feel after your last workout? Just asking about them, asking for some feedback. We're trying to find out, did they get any sleep last night? If they didn't sleep last night or they're stressed out for one of 1,000 reasons, then you know what, maybe we need to back off a little bit and not try to crush them. So step 2, ask how they're feeling. Step 3 is to set expectations. In particular, now this applies with everyone, but in particular with our newer clients, we forget, we're all gym guys, so we could, for the most part, walk into any gym in the country and feel relatively comfortable. But to me, where this really stood out was whenever I went on my sabbatical out to San Francisco and trying out all these gyms, I walked into a Barry's boot camp. And the first thing I walk in when I see is this guy that's in short shorts, a tank top, probably 230, 6'2", with about -3% body fat, just jacked. First thing I see, and I'm like, oh crap, this is gonna suck. I'm not gonna make it. And but he did an awesome. He was super friendly, and he told me what to expect. This was my first time this is before I had tried Barry's Boot Camp, before I tried Orange Theory, before I had tried anything like that. And it really, I was like, man, you know what? I was seriously nervous going in because I've seen all their ads. I've seen the people that are there. And I walk in and the first thing I see is this guy. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to die. And I'm in decent shape. So
I'm your instructor, Thunder.
Exactly. I'm thinking like American Gladiators, So, but because he set the expectations as far as what was going to happen in the workout, it really quickly, within my first 2 minutes of being in the door, I'm like, okay, like I can do this. And so that step 3 is setting the expectations. With a new client, it's when you walk in, hey, Mrs. Johnson, my name's John. We're thrilled to have you here. So just to kind of give you an idea, since this is your first time in, here's what to expect. First thing we're going to do, we're going to come right over here, and I'm pointing where we're going. We're going to sit down, chat for about 5-10 minutes. Just kind of get to know you, learn about your goals. Just want to, see how we can help you. After that, we're going to, I'm going to walk you out on the training floor, take you through just a real quick warm-up. After that, Brendan over there, and I'm going to point to Brendan. Brendan's going to take you through a workout, nothing crazy, just to, to kind of get you up and moving. It's going to be super easy. And, nothing too strenuous at all that you can't do. After that, we're going to do some stretching. We'll come back, kind of recap, talk about, answer any questions you have, and talk about, a plan from here. That sound good to you? So that's setting the expectations so the person knows right out of the gates what's going to happen. From there, our 4th step is what we refer to as just 20 touch points. Not like in a creepy sort of way, but 20 touch points as far as on the floor, right? On the floor, the trainers need to be engaging with the client 20 times during the workout. Whether it's, hey, keep your shoulders back, great job on this, don't forget about this. Just 20 coaching cues or points of feedback so that the client knows that we're paying attention to them. And we're giving them feedback. Kind of something we've recently added to that is the idea of never go more than 2 minutes without speaking to someone. So if you're working with a group of 5 people, every 2 minutes, you need to engage with every single person. So that way no one's ever kind of on their own for too long. So just that constant feedback with the clients. The 5th step is to applaud their effort and give specific feedback. It's one thing to say like, hey, awesome work today, but that's kind of, it's kind of generic. What we prefer is, what, hey, Rick, awesome work today. Man, I saw you doing those planks and you freaking crushed it. That was awesome. Great job. So, given very specific feedback, or, hey, you went up 10 pounds on your squats. Like, that was great. Whatever it is. The 6th step is then to either set or confirm their next visit. And it's not just one, it makes it easier on us scheduling because we're not having to hunt someone down later. But more important than that, I think it shows that we care. If I'm like, if you're in the gym right now and I'm already talking about the next time we're going to see each other, like that's going to make you think like, man, he really wants me in here. So it's to set or confirm their next appointment. Make sure they're scheduled. And then the last step is to thank them for coming in and leave them with one takeaway. That one takeaway could be, hey, did you see our nutrition tip of the week? It's all about drinking water. I know you said you weren't drinking very much water. Go check it out. It's over there we've got this giant dry erase board. Or, hey, did you know next week's client appreciation week? If you've got a friend or a family member that you want to bring in with you, 100% free, just bring them in with you. Like, we'd love to have someone, join in on the fun. So we're thanking them for coming in, and we're leaving with one takeaway. Whatever that doesn't really, the specific takeaway isn't as important, is that we're just leaving them with something primarily to help them with the other 23 hours of the day. As you're walking out the door, hey, Jim, don't forget, and as soon as you get home, make sure you have your protein shake. So those are our 7 steps, and we train on that consistently so that every single member on my team from day one, they know what a good experience looks like. And that's something that it's a consistent experience, and it's what we feel is a positive experience.
Yeah, I love that because it's so specific when you break it down to steps like that. And like you said, there are actionable steps. You can measure your staff, your team's performance against those steps. So when you meet with your team, you say, hey, you consistently miss step 4, or you consistently miss step 5. And on the last podcast, Rick, you were talking about the importance of continually drilling that and role playing that. And I know John does that with his staff on these 7 points. So what are some of the guidelines or outlines to role playing? Like how long, how often, consistency, things like that?
Yeah, I would say, we have a team meeting once a week. That's a great time to do it. So We have our team meetings strategically timed for different events so we can kind of move through it quickly and don't get hung up on one thing. And one of those is a practical section during the meeting, and that's the time when we can actually role play what we're doing, because as you guys know, we're rolling out a whole new process right now, and so in doing so we need to practice, get feedback and practice. So what I loved about what John's doing, we do something similar but different, but I like the simple 7 steps. I think it's a great idea. You can actually take those exact 7 steps, break them down into 7 very simple questions, and then secret shop your staff. That's the best way to do it. So the way that works is you pull aside a member or a client beforehand and say, listen, this is completely anonymous, but these are the things that we're trying to do for you as a member to give you the best experience. I'm going to email you this worksheet or just hand it to them, whatever. They just don't want to be known, obviously. And then have them take a session with that lens and then immediately respond to you as to whether or not those things happen. So it would be like, in John's case, it would be like, number 1, were you greeted by name within 5 seconds? Yes or no, right? And you would have the coach that they worked with that day at the top. It's something they filled out. So what you could see then is if you have patterns like, hey, we're not doing a great job of our 20 touch points, which I think was like number 5 or something. As a team, then you can address that and say, we're killing it here. We're doing great here. We're great here. But based on our secret surveys, we stuck at number 5. So how can we improve that, right? And then you get the team involved in that. And if you find that your whole team is killing it, except you have one coach who's consistently scoring poorly, right? Then you can address just that one person. No sense in addressing everyone for one person's shortcomings. So, and it's another great way to sort of reward staff over time. Like if those are the 7 things that are going to make a great customer experience, quite honestly, that means those are the 7 things that are going to drive retention, which is really the main role of the coaches, right? Get some referrals maybe, but it's really retention driven for those guys. Then you can grade them each quarter or annually, whenever you meet with them, and say, hey, your average scores on these tests are this, right? Our average team score is a 5 out of a 10, or 8 out of a 10, you're at a 5 out of a 10. So that's a no-go. You need to step it up. So anyway, there's ways to take what John's built and then measure it and use the clients to do so. So yeah, man, I love it. I think it's a great idea. We do something similar, but a little bit different, but it's the same thing.
Yeah. And when I had Frank on the show, when he was talking about when he rebranded, he created these brand ambassadors, which are clients that have to apply to be an ambassador, and of course everybody that applies gets accepted, but that's something that you can put on their shoulders to secret shop your team. Say, hey, you're going to be our brand ambassador, and we just like to have you do XYZ, and one of those line item things could be secret shop the trainers to help just improve the customer experience. But John, I want to hear how often you drill this with your team. How long did it take before you started to see measurable results?
With our newer employees, we do it every single day they're here for the first, 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, and it's every single day they're here for the first 4 to 6 weeks. After that, we touch on it at least. We have a weekly meeting as well. We touch on it at least monthly, but we'll pinpoint specific items weekly. So we kind of, just to be more efficient with our time, we'll kind of pick and choose. We'll cherry pick what needs to be worked on at that time, and kind of address it and work towards solutions, or see what we need to adjust. And a lot of times our when we tend to get off track with one number, what I've found is it's that we've gotten away from it because we're doing something else. And it's not that they're not doing anything. It's, we were taking care of the laundry, too often, or during peak time. That was a recent issue we discussed, was someone would be leaving and there wasn't anyone at the front. And when we talked about it, the solution was, well, we need to better emphasize taking care of washing all of our towels during our slower hours, as opposed to just when the load was done to go change it out. And so again, a lot of just like constantly fine tuning and tweaking things, so that again, it's not that my team's awesome. It's not that they're not doing anything. It's just that we just have to have a conversation. You know what? Maybe, instead of doing this, we need to focus on this, and here's what you were doing, and here would be a more appropriate time to do that.
Yeah, those are all great points. And the thing that I would add to that, step 6, when you said, set your next appointment, you always have people that no show or cancel at the last minute or whatever. I think it's important to contact those clients in some way, because if they have an appointment and they don't show up and nobody contacts them, they're like, they don't give a shit about me, and then, before you know it, they start no showing on appointments all the time. Before you know it, they're canceling. They're canceling their membership. So, but then just that simple phone call, and I prefer phone calls, because Rick and I was talking to Frank about this, like with all the automation, it's really easy to get lazy and get away from that personal touch, which we as studio owners need to excel in, because that's the one asset that the big box gyms cannot do, and that the franchise gyms don't do, is that personal touch. So if we can call them and say, hey, Sally, we missed you this morning at 9, I hope everything's okay. Love to reschedule your appointment. Let us know if there's anything that we can do for you, talk to you later. Boom, just like that. And they get that phone call and they're like, oh, they noticed I wasn't there. They thought about me. They want me to reschedule. Maybe these guys really do care about my health and fitness goals. And so then they become a little bit more of a fan, more of a raving fan of your studio. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah, we do that systematically. It's part of the trainer's job, is when they finish their shift, if anybody that was on their schedule didn't show up, they have to text them. And we use a text service, but it's got their name in it, and they'll put something personal in the text. So like, hey, missed you today. I know you had a busy weekend coming up. If they have anything personal, like I know you had a wedding this weekend. Hope you didn't, you're still not hungover. Call us and let us know you're okay. We always get really good feedback on that.
Yeah, I think that's huge. But I think that's great. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm saying you can systemize that pretty easily.
Yeah. So. And I think that's really important. And I love it that there's steps that you can break down and implement in your business. But I think it's important, especially moving forward, because you have, the title of this episode is where you need to position yourself in the next year to be successful in fitness. And I think it's really easy to focus on your competition, right? All the big box gyms that are trying to come in on the studio space, all the franchise large group, the Orange Theories, the F45s, the True Fusions, you name it. It seems like there's a new franchise coming every day. No offense, Rick, but yours is unique. It's not the large group, it's small group. And I like, what you've told me about it so far. But I think it's important to focus on what you do and do that better and become the best at it, and then market that. So if you're a independent studio owner and you want to position yourself to be successful, profitable a year from now, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You can, I think you have a distinct advantage being an independent club owner, right? If that's who's listening, because you can kind of do anything that you want. Now, of course, it's also bad because you can kind of do anything that you want. But if you can really kind of work around, you don't have to fit within the constraints of maybe like a franchise that's maybe not as forward thinking, that doesn't provide you with the technology to, even if it's a reminder for a human reach out, that type of thing. So I think there's a big advantage there. And I think sometimes, we think it has to be drastically different, and it really doesn't. I think of like pizza franchises. There's like a million friggin' pizza franchises. I think it might be more pizza franchises than any other franchise, right? But every now and then someone will come in and jump in that space, which I would say never get into pizza franchising because they're everywhere. And everybody likes pizza, so we start with that. It's pretty easy, right? But if you can jump in there and be relevant and different, it'll work. Like there was one I saw the other day that seems to be doing well, where it's like the Brazilian steakhouse kind of idea, where you have your green card, red card flip over, right? And you go in the restaurant and you sit down and you flip over your green card, and these people come around and they've got pizzas on a tray and they're like, oh, this is our pineapple, whatever, like whoever eats that on the pizza, but it happens. And like, would you like a piece, and they keep serving you until you turn your card back over. So I'm like, damn, I would eat there. That's awesome. Well, that's like CC's Pizza, except somebody that's dressed nice comes around and gives you a slice of pizza that might taste a little bit better. But at the end of the day, it's still pizza. So there's still room for disruption in the same sort of mechanisms, if that makes sense. Like that would be an example, right? Like, so how can you deliver fitness differently? And it might not be the food or the service itself. It might be the way it's delivered and the feeling that people have when they consume it. So I still think there's room for innovation. Most of it, though, is in the customer experience that John was talking about.
Yeah. John, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the customer experience, I go back to the customer experience. It's everything. To kind of piggyback on a couple different points that we've discussed so far, I think the customer experience, but doing it in a way that represents who you are is super important. And so for instance, you mentioned clients not showing up, and our facility, that's our team. If someone doesn't show up for an appointment, we're reaching out to them. But to kind of take that a step further, if we have people that are maybe not feeling the love or just have been canceling more than what we feel like they should, either myself or one of the other trainers will actually take a selfie, like 10-second video with a weird Snapchat filter where we're changing the voice and everything, and then download it to the phone and text it to them, and it gets a response almost every time. Or we will, another thing I haven't done this in a while, but I would get a stock image of a milk carton and go copy their photo off Facebook, put it on the side of the milk carton, and it says like, missing person, something, and then, text it to them or put it on their Facebook, and then all their friends are, think it's hilarious as well. Obviously, I'm only doing this with people that I know, not their first week in the gym. So this is after we've broken the ice, and I don't think I'm a complete weirdo. But those are the things that, with the customer experience, that I think is kind of blending that customer experience with also being true to who you are. So on the flip side to that, I would say if, again, I'm a very sarcastic person, that's me. If you're, straight and narrow, don't do that. Because it will come across as really weird and creepy. So you got to be who you are. So again, just be real and be who you are and be authentic. And I think that's huge. But that's something that a lot of the newer franchises can't compete with, is that personal touch in the experience and just making people feel like they're not a number, they're an actual human being. And it's like, man, they know who I am.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point. But I think, when you said, customer service, but put your unique spin on it of who you are. I know for me, I had to change who I was basically as a leader when it was no longer just me running the business, but then I had a team and I had to lead a team. I had to change who I was, because when you say be who you are, you might have some guys like, they might have a brand new client, first week at the gym, and they don't show up. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, where the fuck are you? You got to take this shit serious. You better show your ass up here. I'm going to crush your ass the next workout. That guy's never coming back to the gym. So if that owner wants to stay in business, he can't be himself, or he's got to change who he is. So I think it's important, like you said, you have a filter, because you said, I'll wait till I know the person, and we develop a rapport. So I think that's really important. I think you just can't go out there and, like to Rick's point, do whatever the hell you want to whoever. I think you have to stay in some parameters and have a governor on. But I want to wrap up, and I want to have some fun with this. I usually have like some canned questions that I ask, but I want to have some fun with this and see if I can catch you guys off guard. And maybe I doubt if I can catch either one of you off guard, because both of you guys have been around the block, been through some harrowing experiences. But my first question is, the time you've been in the fitness industry, what has been what you consider the worst fad and your favorite fad.
Rick, go for it.
Worst fad in the fitness industry. I don't know. It's got to revolve around nutrition, man. Holy smokes, right? I'm going to say that my least favorite fad, because I've been in the industry for 27 years, so I've forgotten most of the things that I ever learned for the first 26 years, would be the keto diet. Just because I hear about it all the time right now. So, but you know what? If you asked me last year, it'd be a different diet. If 2 years before that, it'd be a different diet, right? I've been through them all. So hard to say, honestly, worst fad, but that would be it. I think the best fad, or my favorite fad, is exactly what we're talking about now. Like the type of person that is in fitness now with this competitive landscape is not someone who can just open in a dirty garage gym, right? Like, so you've got some real savvy business people getting into the fitness space, and if they're not going to make it. So I like that because it ups the ante, and it's a little bit of what you talked about, Jim, is you want to be in this game. We've all been in it for a minute, right? That you have to literally change who you are as a person to be able to grow an organization in today's market, because things are a bit more sophisticated than they used to be, and you just have to go about doing things differently. And I think that's good. I think that does nothing that raise the bar for the whole industry. So that's probably my favorite trend.
Very good answer. John?
Oh man, this is tough. Would it be okay to do like two fads that I don't like, because they're like kind of neck and neck?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of a tie between Tabata, because everything's Tabata, and so Tabata is definitely something that like just never. I don't know. It's doesn't seem to be going away, but it's like it keeps reinventing itself. Tabata would be one. The other worst fad would probably be, and just kind of the like fitness Instagram influencer. Just I don't even know how to describe it. It's just maybe I'm partially jealous because I'm not ripped with a six pack. So maybe that not gonna lie, there could be an ounce of jealousy in there too. But it's this. They've got a six pack, they're ripped. Like they're obviously an expert and know everything about working out and fitness. And those, yeah. So I'd rather invest this and do two, negatives.
Now, are you talking specifically to Jim when you say that about being like super fit, so he just knows what he's talking about? Because I think that's unfair. He's got a business, so I don't know, man. I think he knows what he's doing just because he's ripped. It's like what I'm saying is, Jim, personally, I want you to know that I also don't like this trend so much, but I'm not going to hold it against you personally for being buffed. Just want you to know that.
No comment.
Yeah. You know how
did we lose Jim?
Yeah. You know how everybody's doing these like this app where you can show what you're going to look like when you're old.
Oh yeah.
Well, I did it. I did it. Can you hear me, John?
He's there.
Well, I did it. Yeah, I got you.
I'm here.
I did the old face ad, and this is what I look like when I put the old face on. So I am old. It's because I am old.
Yeah,
but,
I was the same way. I was just so excited to post it, Jim, and then shit didn't look any different. So I'm like, well, I guess nobody's even going to get it. Like, what's the difference? I'm like, oh, it's not good.
Yeah. John, can you hear us? John?
No, he's out, man.
He's out. So now it's kind of awkward without our host being here. So Rick, where should we take this next?
Well, John, it's funny you mentioned that, because like I can see Jim and I can see you, but you guys can't hear each other. So you're kind of like talking over each other and stuff. So it's you that somehow got disconnected. And I think it was something offensive that you said about Jim's build, and he fucking cut you off.
It could be that.
Rightly so. Right. So
that makes sense, because I can see and hear you just fine, but Jim's just a black screen.
Yeah.
Wait for it.
That's
maybe.
No, that's weird.
See his name now. We could be getting somewhere.
I'm gonna text you. But anyway, so to piggyback on John's point, my least favorite fitness trend is The bodybuilder pants, those old like baggy pajama pants.
What do you know?
I know you have pictures, and I definitely have pictures where I'm.
What do I do with my hands?
Can you cut him off, for God's sakes? Can you shut him up? Like he's. Can you officially turn John? I don't know what John's doing. Like, anyway, listen, man, you're crazy. Like, I'm gonna say no. You cannot use that, because I'm gonna do everything in my power. Use all my fitness pull that I've ever built to bring those fucking fancy pants back. Those things are so comfortable. Like, it's like wearing pajamas to work. Who wouldn't like those? Plus, they look dope, man. You got the Buffalo Bills colors and everything. That's awesome, man.
Oh, they were awful. They were god awful. They were like something out of like a Japanese anime. But anyway, so that's my least favorite.
All right.
And my favorite fitness trend is the fanny pack.
Oh, boom. Okay, you're back. You're back in my good graces. If they bring that back, I'm getting one.
Because, it's coming back. But it's not a fanny pack. It's a shoulder pack. You wear it like a bandolero now.
What, the Merce?
No, it's not a Merce, because if you call it a Merce, I'm not wearing it. But it's so practical, right? You can carry all of your shit in it. You know, you don't have to worry about it. It's easy. It's convenient. But, it gets a bad rap, but it's coming back. I'm telling you it. But everybody's wearing it as a bandolero. So they're wearing it like strapped across their chest,
Listen, I don't feel like calling it a bandolero, which sounds like a lot of ammo for my guns in the Old West, makes it right. It's a Merce. At the end of the day, like, it's okay if you want to wear it, man. Like I said, like, if anybody can get away with it, it's you, right? All bucked up, choking people out just for fun at the bus stop and shit. Like, you can wear a Merce if you want. I couldn't pull it off. Couldn't do it. So it's a bummer, man. If you can't wear it around your waist, I'm probably not going to be able to go there.
Oh, no, I'm telling you, I broke mine out when I went out to LA. They were everywhere. And I broke mine out last weekend, and I didn't get a word. I didn't get a good word. I didn't get a bad word. I wore it as a bandolero, and I don't know if they were just afraid to say anything. Like, who the fuck is that dude trying to bring back a fanny pack? But he's big.
Pack on his shoulder. So it doesn't mean anything.
But he's a big buff dude, and I know he knows jujitsu, so I'm not going to say shit.
Were you wearing a shirt that literally said jujitsu? Because that's also a dead giveaway. Like,
no, I do have one, but I wasn't wearing it.
Okay, that's good.
All right, we're going to try to get John back in. I'm going to message him. All right,
John,
and then
if you can hear me, John, we're trying to bring you back from the dead.
Hey, Rick, ask John to log out and log back in and see if that solves the problem.
He's actually gone now. It's just you and I.
Okay. All right. Hold on. All right, there you go. Can you hear us?
Whoa!
You're back.
Are you back?
Back from the dead.
Okay. Well, we were just discussing all things fanny packs. And I don't know where you fall in that, either that or I don't know if you remember the bodybuilding pants. So that was my least favorite, and the fanny pack was my favorite.
You must have been really torn at that time, because those two kind of went together as a full ensemble. Like, how did you put that shit together? It's like, you can't wear, workout pants without a fanny pack, or vice versa, really. That's probably why they moved it to the shoulder, hence the bandolero, like code word. It's really just a fanny pack without the pants. You can't even wear it. You got to put it on your shoulder. It's weird.
Yeah. All right. And then my next question is kind of, it's kind of mundane compared to the last one, but I know, Rick, you've worked with a lot of franchise or licensees and a lot of gym owners. You speak all around the world. John, you have encountered many in the STS and all the Perform Better summits and everything. What is the biggest mistake you see most fitness business owners make?
John, go ahead. That's a loaded question.
Oh, man. I would say trying to do too much and just losing focus, and whether it's from a messaging standpoint and trying to, we actually, I talked about this in the STS a week or two ago. was, like, why would someone, if your target audience is 55-year-old Mrs. Johnson, why are you posting pictures and videos online of some like 25-year-old ripped dude or man or woman, or like professional athlete or mixed martial arts fighter? Again, it's all about being focused and going deep versus wide. And I think people tend to be all over the place. They're trying to launch a new program every 3 months, as opposed to really, narrowing what you do down and trying to, make it as good as it can be.
I would say this is going to be a super boring answer, but it probably is the biggest challenge for fitness owners, especially independents, is just understanding how money works. It's like so many people open without a budget. They sort of bootstrap things along. They run into tight spots. They don't have any set aside. They don't have any kind of a profit model set up. They don't understand budgets around marketing and expenses. And there's budgets for revenue. There's budgets for expenses. Those things are interrelated. It's like, get some help, don't just fly by the seat of your pants. Unfortunately, again, in a more competitive environment moving forward, you have to be a better, more skilled owner than maybe you did in the past, because now you have to fully understand your business metrics. And you might say, I don't do that. Well, it's like, fine, well then hire it out. But at least lean into it enough to understand what's going on so that you can make relevant decisions. It doesn't have to be the tiebreaker, but at least should be a factor in your overall business plan. Because I know you love what you do, right? But at the end of the day, you've got to pay your bills and take care of your family. It's like, that's kind of why we have, a business. Otherwise, it's like, geez, just do it as a hobby and get a job that actually pays you something. So anyway, I would say just understanding money, how it works, and how to make it work for you would be the biggest downfall that I see.
Great point. And then I would add to that, not building a team. I see a lot of owners when they start out, they're a one person show, but then they try to do too much. Like John said, they try to wear too many hats, and then they become the bottleneck in the business, and they don't take the time to look for, hire, train, manage a good team to take some of the weight off their shoulders so the business can grow beyond them. So that's what I would say is the biggest mistake, but those both are great points. And then my last one, we're going to make a sandwich here. So we've all been like a sandwich, like goofy question, serious question, goofy question. All right. So we all work out, obviously. We've all been in a gym. All right. And I'm going to go first on this one. So when you're in the gym, and it could be your gym, it could be a commercial gym, whatever. What is your biggest pet peeve? Mine, hands down, without a doubt, is people doing curls in the squat rack. Rick?
Well, let me take a minute to get that knife out of my back. First of all, I'm certainly that guy. So, man. Whew,
I'm sorry. Don't you call it doing squats in the curl rack?
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Like, get out of the way. No one trains legs, bro. Like, come on, man. Got to do some pipes. It's Friday afternoon. Who the hell does squats on a Friday? Come on, bro. Get out of there. Let me curl. That's kind of the conversation, the way it goes. I would say the biggest pet peeve I have, and it's a relatively new development, is fanny packs worn on the upper body. I think you call them a bandolero. Like, I hate that shit, man. That's a no-go for me. That is a no. That's a no. That's a hard no.
Hard no. What about just a traditional fanny pack worn around the waist?
Tight, man. We're best friends if you do that.
Okay.
You can get knuckles for sure if that happens. Yeah.
All right. Got it. All right. John?
Boy, this is a really tough one. I would have to go, and it doesn't really, thankfully, we don't have any issues with it here, but some of the like profuse just sweaters that, aren't really good about cleaning up after themselves. And that like I said, I notice that whenever I go to some commercial gyms, and it's just like, it's just weird. Like, that's all there is to it. Leaving all your sweat juices everywhere, and
Ooh, that's nasty.
Yeah, they're like a walking CSI scene.
Right.
Yeah.
DNA everywhere.
Yeah, especially when you say sweat juices. That's such a vivid picture.
And you leaned into the microphone, so juices really came out like pronounced. It's really weird. Thank you for that.
Thank you for leaving us with that word picture. All right, guys, we're out of time. Thanks a lot for coming on. This was a lot of fun and very informative. Both you guys are busy. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. And I know the listeners are going to get a ton out of this. And if you want to know where to contact Rick, find out any more information about Rick, he's not hard to find, or Alloy or John Farkas at Blue Ocean Fitness, just go to trainergym.net, click on this episode of the podcast, and all the links will be in the show notes. Guys, thanks a lot. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week and a good day.
Thanks, Jim.
All right.
Thanks, John.
Peace out, guys.